Hey guys, welcome back to the Eaton Homestead. My name is Danielle and welcome to the first week of our garden tours of 2021. As you can see, I am outside right now and there's really not much we can be doing in the garden because we've still got snow. Today is Tuesday, March 8th, so it's still a little bit early for us to be doing anything outside as it's still pretty cold out here. But there's a lot going on inside, and I wanted to kick off this year by starting inside with our seedlings and all the stuff that we have got going. It's already feeling like it's starting to build up and everything's growing, so I figured I'd just give you a little look around as to what we're up to, the varieties that I'm starting, things like that. So if that's super boring for you, feel free to click on. Otherwise, let's go talk about seeds. So this is my laundry room, my very cramped, messy, don't judge me, stuffed laundry room. It's also sort of our slash mud room, which I should have made much bigger, knowing we live in Maine and spring is a long mud season, especially when you've got an all dirt driveway, but that's besides the point. This is where I have set up my seed starting station and it's working out really well. Let's take a look at it. I ended up getting four more of these shop lights, which is all that I'm using to get my seeds started. So I found that just one of the lights on the shelf wasn't quite enough to cover this whole black tray. So I went ahead and doubled them up. So now I've got 2 on each row. So I've got 8 lights total, and 4, it is 2 shelving units together though. So 2, 4, 6, 8. I can have 8 black trays going in here at any one time. I'm gonna pull these out from the lights so I can show you exactly what I've got started. So this is a tray. Let me hit the light here. A little better. This is a tray. This has got some of the peppers that I've gotten started. I admittedly have had horrible luck with peppers, so I am just super determined to make this the year that my peppers do much, much better. Just the other day, I fed everything with a half-strength fertilizer. I just used fish fertilizer, fish emulsion. So these are looking really amazing. I'm just going to keep these. My plan to try and be more successful with peppers this year is to keep them inside as long as possible, under lights as long as possible, just to get them really, really strong and not move them out until we are in like the hottest weather that we get here in Maine, which is really not until like mid-season, but I'm hoping that if I can hold off and not expose them to any cool temperatures, that they might do a little better for me. So these are all California Wonder Peppers. These 4 right here are the tomato seedlings that I've started for my in-ground garden. So I have a couple different kinds of gardening methods that I use. I have 15 raised beds, which I do a lot. I mean, there's a ton that I can grow in those 15 raised beds, but I also have some in-ground garden space, a pretty big, I mean, I would say it's maybe like 15 by 20 plot of in-ground space, which has been changing and developing every year. I'm finding new and better ways to use that space. So last year I did 3 rows of 10 tomatoes each. So I did 30 tomato plants just in the in-ground in addition to all the ones in the beds. And it sort of was like my market style, I guess. And that was a huge producer for me. So I got a ton of tomatoes out of that. But I sort of just did like a mishmash. I just stuck them there because I always start way too many tomato plants and it was just a way for me to use them up. And it was great. It was great having that huge abundance of tomatoes because then I could use it for making, you know, my pasta sauces and pizza sauces and salsa, which the salsa recipe that I found, I need to find it again because it was really, really good. So anyways, this year, what I decided to do was try to be more intentional. I don't know why I can't talk today. Intentional about the varieties that I am planting in that sort of bigger in-ground space. So these 4 varieties here, this is a Roma tomato. the Mortgage Lifter, the Abraham Lincoln, which grows a really big size tomato, and the Homestead tomato. So these 4 are going to be more of my like staple tomatoes, just so that I can get a bigger harvest of easier to process tomatoes and tomatoes that lend themselves better for processing and canning and things like that. All, you know, the cool, quirky, funky ones, I love those as well. I'll still probably end up throwing them in my batches for sauce and things like that. But just generally, all those heirloom tomatoes varieties that I grow can tend to be like kind of funky shaped and just weird. So it makes it a little bit more work to process them. And if I could grow some things that are just a little bit more standard sized, I feel like that would be easier on me. And the color is the other thing. I mean, it doesn't bother me any. I actually kind of like that weird color that you get when you're mixing together, you know, your reds and your orange and your yellow and your striped and your tie-dye and black and all the different colored tomatoes that I grow. It doesn't really bother me any, but I figured just to try and get like, you know, some standard size, bigger harvest of all the same kind of thing would be a little bit better. So these are germinating okay. I'm going to let them go a little bit longer and see if I can get some more to germinate. These really just popped up last night, so they're still like brand new. So we'll give these a little bit longer, and then I'll show you what I did. I actually started all of my like fun varieties, just for fun varieties, a few weeks earlier. So those are already out in the windows because they were at a size where I could transplant them up into a bigger container. So that's my method with these, where you see them sown, you know, very thickly, each in their own little cups here, is that once everything is germinated and it's up and it's looking, you know, strong and healthy, then I just go through and separate them. Tomatoes are really hardy when it comes to separating. Another thing to keep in mind when you're doing tomatoes is that anywhere on the stem itself can be planted. So this is not one of those plants where it's real finicky about, you know, when you're potting it up or you're planting it out, that you get the soil level at exactly where the soil level was or any of that. Tomatoes, if you notice, their stalks are actually kind of hairy and furry. And everywhere that all those little hairs are where the plant is ready to put out some roots. So you can plant your tomatoes much deeper as you go. So when I potted them up, I potted them just a little bit deeper than where the soil level had been, because that will send out roots. And then when I go to plant it, I'll actually strip a lot of the leaves on the bottom and plant it really, really deep. So that whole stalk with all those furry little hairs will end up sending out even more roots. And it just makes for an even stronger and healthier plant. And then in here, same kind of idea, I've also started my eggplants. So I've had like okay success with eggplant in the past. Last year I didn't do great. But I've got the Black Beauty Pandora striped, I think, Casper, which is a white variety, the Long Purple, which is sort of like a smaller skinny one, and the Rosa Bianca, which is sort of more of like a globe shape. So we'll see if any of these babies come up soon. Okay, so this was my onion tray, and I find this really interesting. I started all of this at the same time. Well, mostly. You can see that there's some, you know, substantially bigger onions here. These ones on the end here, this is all the Grana Red. And then these are my Walla Wallas, and you can see that some of them are quite a bit bigger. It had such spotty germination that I was able to go back through and re-sow some more. I had to get some more seeds just from like the box store because I had gone through all of my onion seeds. So I don't know. It's just funny how now that second batch is, you know, germinating pretty well. But then over here I had white sweet Spanish onion, and I have one. And then my hybrid yellow onion, I got nothing. So I have no idea. I have no idea why that is. If you know anything about onion germination, I've got a lot of mold, and I tried treating the mold with cinnamon and some peppermint spray, but it didn't really seem to do a whole lot. I don't know if I killed off the seeds in trying to do that. I had used clear plastic trays, but I find that the humidity in our house is just already enough. And when I put the plastic trays on it, the domes, it just creates way too much humidity in there. So I'll put them on for like a day or so, but anything more than that, I start just getting crazy mold growth. So I don't know, but my plan with these is to just let them grow in these like little 4-pack things, let them get up nice and big and strong. And then when I'm ready to take them outside, I'll just kind of separate them out and plant them one at a time and hopefully get a better onion harvest. In the past, I have always grown like just tiny onions. I can't seem to get them to grow big enough. So I'm doing my research to try and be a little bit better about that this year. Okay, so here is another really awesome looking tray of peppers. I've got some shishito peppers, the d'Espagne, don't ask me. I took like 12 years of French and I still can't speak a word of it. So, yeah, these are looking really great. I'm really, really pleased with how these are coming along. I've been noticing that some of them, I don't know if I can get this on camera. I've been noticing that some of them are already putting off like suckers, I guess. Is it a sucker if it's a pepper? You know, the little offshoots that come off in the armpit of the plant. Some of these are already doing that. So this one looks really, really happy and healthy. It's got all kinds of new growth coming in between in these little armpits here. So yeah, I have failed so horribly at peppers for the last few years. I need to figure out what I need to do differently, but this makes me feel hopeful. Same thing with this tray of peppers, looking really, really good. These are pepperoncinis, some Orange King, and some California Wonders. So, you know, all different kinds of rates of growth here, but they look awesome. I started these in the same sort of idea as I did the tomatoes, sort of sowing them very thickly. And then this is actually, I potted them all up into these, I don't know what this is, 3x3, 4x4, probably 3, these size cups, so that they would have some room to grow and really establish and be nice and healthy and strong for me. So all is good on the pepper front. Okay, so in this tray, I have started some chamomile. So I've got a few starts here that are looking really good. This is my rosemary and lavender, which are just super hard to germinate anyways, but I've got a few of them here, so maybe, and a few lavenders as well. Maybe, we'll see. It's just being hopeful. And then I've got thyme and oregano. So my oregano is already like going crazy. And I've got some, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to come in here and like deal with some of these. I guess some of the, no, this is oregano too. So these two and this half of this side is thyme. And then these 3 rows are oregano. So, but there are a couple of thyme plants here kind of getting going, but not great germination there either. I don't know what my deal is, but this smells amazing. Does anybody else just rub their plants to sniff them? Because it smells so good. So you can see this tray is where I had started a lot of those tomatoes that are now out on the window shelves. I'll bring you out there in just a second. But this is what I have left in here just to kind of keep it going. The Aunt Molly's ground cherry is these 3, and they are much slower to germinate than the rest of, I mean, I don't know if it's in the tomato variety or in the tomato like family. I put it there because it seems like it, but I don't know. I think it's like tomatillo. I don't know. Anyway, Love those. So I'm excited to see some good germination there. And then I've got spearmint down this row and peppermint down this row. Those are all looking really great. Back here, I've got some lemon mint in these three. This is summer savory, which I think that looks horribly leggy, but we'll see if we can't do anything with it. I don't know. Might end up just trying to direct sow some of that. I just did a few little things of chives, and then back here is lemon balm, which is like taking over and going crazy. So that's exciting. This tray is a mess because it's where I took most of the peppers out of. So this is where I had started peppers. This is some more peppers. I had re-sown because I had like really spotty, weak germination. So I had re-sown what I could, what I still had seeds for. So I still have a couple more California Wonder Peppers. This YOLO Wonder Pepper. I've got, let's see, this is jalapenos, which would be great because I don't have any of those. This looks like a large red cherry, and this one was an Anaheim. I've got two there. And then same thing, guys. I started more onions. I'm really dry. That's probably why. But I've got nothing. Nothing. What the heck? Yeah, these need water. The bottom shelf gets a little neglected. And then this is also a super exciting tray. This is a whole tray of brassicas. So I'm trying this method where I have just deeply, sown everything really thickly. And my hope here is to come back through and pluck out the strongest ones and put them into their own individual cells, which I'm feeling like I probably should do pretty soon, based on the way these are looking, just to give them their space to really get started. But the varieties that I have in here are some purple broccoli back here, the calabrese, anyways, broccoli, green magic. In these two, I've got my snowball cauliflower. And then this all right here is Brussels sprouts. Back here, I have purple Vienna kohlrabi, white Vienna kohlrabi, Delicatesse blue kohlrabi, and Nero di, why are the names so hard? Nero di Toscana cabbage. Back here I have the golden acre cabbage, and then up here I have yellow heart winter choy that I thought I would get started just to try it out. That way I've always kind of just direct sown that. So I wanted to this year try to be a little bit more intentional and I did it again, intentional about having a spring garden. In the past, I have just, like probably most new gardeners, only ever thought of the summer garden as being the gardening season. But I have an advantage, I think, being here in Maine where it's fairly cool that I've tried to grow broccoli and things in the summer and it gets too hot and they just bolt. I think that I need to take advantage of our cool climate and try to do a little bit better this year about having a spring garden and a fall garden. At least the spring garden. I have a hard time with the fall garden because that usually means I have to tear something out in order to make space. And it just breaks my heart to do that. But I'm going to try right now having some good started plants, which is what this is all about. Having some good started plants so that as soon as the soil is workable, as soon as the snow is melted, and I can get in there and, dig a hole to plant these things, that I'm going to try doing that. I'm going to see if they will be happier and perform better for me while it's still nice and cool here in Maine. So that's what these are all about, and I am super excited. For my family loves broccoli. They're not vegetable eaters, but broccoli is one of the only vegetables that they'll eat, and I've never been able to grow it, so I'm just going to keep trying. That's all we can do, is just keep trying, right? Okay, let's head back out to the living room so I can show you the tomato starts. Don't judge my very messy house. Amelia's having some screen time. There's an epic box fort in my living room. You know, we live here. So let's go this way. Toys everywhere. These are all of the sort of fun varieties of tomatoes that I got started. I don't know if you can see this very well with the weird backlighting, but yeah, these are just a couple days in these bigger pots now, but they were very easy to separate out and get out here on the windows. I feel like tomatoes are a little bit more, what's the word? Forgiving about not having the best sunlight right now. They will thrive so much more. They'll grow like crazy once, you know, the summer heat comes around and they are getting tons of daylight. We're getting more and more sunlight, and this side of my house gets a ton of light. This is where the sun rises, so these are the best spots that I can give them in my house. It's still not great. Like, I'm looking at all of these plants and they're all leaning over, like they're just trying to lean towards the window to get more light. But I have found in my few years of doing this that tomatoes will be pretty resilient when it comes to the light. I struggle with things like the Brassicas that I've started before, that when I try to start them out here on the window, they just get really, really leggy and weak. But I have found anyways that tomatoes are much more forgiving. They forgive me for not giving them as much sunlight, and they'll bounce back once I can give them more ideal conditions to what they want. So I just went through and flipped all of these trays around so that they were leaning towards the window. Now they're leaning the other way. It will encourage them to lean back again. It's just one of the ways that I can keep my tomatoes strong here in the windows where they're not getting quite enough sunlight that they need. But it will keep them leaning one way to the other rather than leaning and leaning and leaning and leaning and getting a really weak stalk. So I also just did it so that I could read the labels. This first tray, I have Costoluto Genovese. I have some rose tomato, some Berkeley tie-dye, some Ace 55, some more rose. These are pineapple, and it looks like this is Kellogg's Breakfast. These right here are Dark Galaxy, which was one of my favorite tomatoes to grow last year. They're just so cool and beautiful looking. This is the Wagner Blue Green. Over here on this window, I have my cherry varieties. So a couple random purple Russians. But these are large red cherry tomatoes. These are Sun Gold cherry, which if you've never had Sun Gold cherry, they are my absolute favorite. They taste like literal candy. They're just so sweet and delicious, even right out of the garden. Back to some full-size varieties. These are Hillbilly. I've got a couple Paul Robesons. And another purple Russian back there, it looks like. I should say a couple. I have like 5. Part of my problem here too is that I said I had 15 garden beds that I planted. And so my plan this year was to start more, around 30 to 50 of the staple varieties. And then I just wanted to have like one or two of my fun varieties to put in my garden beds. So the plan was to have 1 or 2 plants of each variety for myself. So of course I have to start like 6 seeds of each variety, and tomato seeds are just great at germinating. So I had almost 100% germination everywhere. So now instead of having the 1 or 2 of each variety. I have like 6 or 7 of each variety because that's tomato math. And then over here, a few more. I've got Berry's Crazy Cherry, a random Floridade, and some more Sun Gold Cherry tomatoes. And that's all that I've got out here just yet. I have these really wonderful hanging shelves that my husband made for me. So they're just a piece of plywood and some chain that hang to each other, and they hang in the window. So this is where I will put all of my starts as they come out of that seed starting rack in the laundry room. They'll come out here. This will be their place to live until they're ready to go outside. The problem is that I already fill them up with plants, so I don't know where I'm going to put all these plants. I'll probably be giving some plants away. I had propagated some of my plants, so I have all these little science experiment ones started everywhere. A little succulent. These are really, really great. I have found that once I am filling the trays up like this with the bigger cups, they get pretty heavy. So even though it's long enough that I could fit 3 black trays, I should not do that because I have had some of these chains snap on me. So now I only put 2 black trays per shelf. So that's it for this week, guys. I'll catch you again next week and let you know how things are progressing. I think I'm going to start some flower seeds just for fun because why not? I'm not sure that there's really a whole lot more else on my list here. I might end up starting things like cucumbers and melons and squashes, but I really don't need to start those until just literally a couple weeks before the last frost, which for me is still about 60 days away, so it's just too early for those things. I have to wait. Otherwise they'll just get crazy and unmanageable and really not be happy to transplanted. They seem to do better transplanted when they're a little bit smaller than the big plants. So yeah, I hope you are having lots of fun getting ready for your gardening season too, wherever you are. Maybe you're farther ahead of me, maybe you're behind me, I don't know. But I thought it would be fun to get started with garden tours this year a little bit earlier and just document the seed starting process as well. I've got a lot of little buggies around here, so I need to figure out what to do with them. I've got some neem oil spray. Yeah, it's gross. They're gross. So I'm going to try and figure out something to do to deal with them. And just now I'm kind of getting on that watering schedule and the fertilizing schedule. Like I said, I fertilized the tomato plants as well when I potted them up with a half strength fish emulsion fertilizer. So I'm really trying to have some good seed starts this year and not have to rely on going out and buying started plants, which I'll still inevitably end up doing, but save that money, you know? So yeah. I'll see you on the next garden tour. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us to grow our family's channel. And with that, I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.